truth is that today, because of the democratization of media and because we have so much access now to the people who are bringing us the news, we have an expectation of connection to those people. Mm-hmm. You've chosen to share not just being out, but some other very personal parts of your journey of exploring who you are. How has that really changed the way you view your job in terms of transparency, and other people's privacy?
You know what? It makes it fun as opposed to a job. I'm just really being myself, because as long as you're hiding who you are, as you said, it increases the workload. It really makes you're walking in slow motion underwater because you're not yourself. And once you're yourself, everything becomes a joyous experience. And so I have opened up about my recovery from alcoholism, and hopefully in April it'll be 16 years. And I do talk a lot about that, and it dovetails with the stories we do, because a lot of the dysfunction, whether it's celebrity scandal or crime, boils down to addiction. There's usually addiction on some level behind all of the dysfunctional behavior. And that's why my latest book is called Addict Nation, an Intervention for America. Got to get that plug in. Check it out. But it makes it fun, because when you're yourself, everything is relaxed, and there's no pretense, and there's no building of walls, and there's no hiding. There's a saying in recovery, you're only as sick as your secrets. So when you don't have as many secrets, and I did keep a few that I haven't shared. Of course, we all have to keep a few, right? But
this is interesting.
Yeah, well, keep something to reveal next decade. But it just makes what would normally be a grueling day an adventure. And so I say, whether it's sexual orientation or your battles with addiction or whatever your issue may be, let it hang out. Nobody cares. They're worried about themselves. They really do not care about you. This is one of the secrets.
So, Lisa, from the perspective of a network that is creating stories, telling stories, where do you draw that line on the privacy front? There are people who get outed for a number of different reasons and on a number of different fronts. Speaking of addiction, Charlie Sheen's not so great outing of other people who are in the program, things of that nature. But when it comes to LGBT issues, as you're creating content, when people are bringing content to you or you're creating it yourselves, how do you draw that line, and how far do you push that line of privacy?
Well, we're not in the outing business, and frankly, we're not really, we're about telling stories in a variety of different genres. And, I think what's interesting is the reality genre, which has sort of consumed the nation. People are really comfortable revealing so much about themselves it blows me away what people are willing to share about their personal lives. And as long as they're okay with it, we're okay with it. That's really what it comes down to. But I would never advocate for us feeling a need to drag somebody out of the closet. It's just not our thing.
Sometimes people in the news will discuss gay rights, but in a way that trivializes it or is actually inherently discriminatory. For example, there were this lesbian couple that was prohibited from going to the prom. And so if you ask a question like, well, what do you think, viewers? Do you think the lesbians should be allowed to go to the prom or not? Call in and let us know. Now, substitute any other racial or ethnic group to that, right? And there would be absolute outrage. What do you think? Should the XYZ couple be allowed to go to the prom or not, right? There would be outrage that you would ask that question. So that's when people in the LGBT...
It's just bad journalism to ask a closed-ended question.
But these are the kinds of things that are asked all the time. And that's when the LGBT community needs to stand up and say, wait a second, we object to that question the way it's phrased. It's inherently discriminatory. And sometimes it's not just the people in the news business who have the power to stop that. It has to be somebody from outside who comes up and says, there's a problem with that question. So all those issues, we have to frame the debate when these issues come up. And we have to exert pressure from the outside, from organizations that are LGBT organizations, and say, hey, we don't like how that was handled, or this is another way you could do it, or here's our reaction to what you did. if, for example, Mike Huckabee is up there jamming on his guitar with some faded rock star, and that's on there over and over again, it's like, the LGBT community needs to stand up and say, wait a second, this guy's been espousing hate. How come you're covering this as a light, happy little news story? Those kinds of things. So we have to be hyper vigilant to make sure that these things don't just slip past and get through without response.